Are we ready?
Mhm.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Wine with Wita. On episode 7 this week, I am privileged to have the gorgeous Stephanie Pinto, who, interestingly, I studied with her many blue moons ago. But Stephanie wasn't only just a speech pathologist, she took a pivot of her career, I would say, over 6 years ago. And she's created this weapon of a business that is incredibly vital with paediatrics and raising children. Welcome, Stephanie, to Wine with Rita.
Thanks for having me, Rita. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, well, Stephanie is the founder of the company Stephanie Pinto Emotional Intelligence. Is that how you call it, Steph?
Yep.
So tell me, what is the $1 million question of emotional intelligence? What is it? It's the buzzword. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? It's not that new of a skill set or like a concept or an area. It's like 30 plus. I mean, it's old, but yeah, it's kind of a buzzword at the moment, especially I think in the last few years. And if I put it in a bit of a nutshell, okay, if I really distill it down, I literally tell people it's being smart with your emotions.
Yeah.
Because a lot of us are not, and I'm like putting myself in that bucket. I'm not perfect. But a lot of us were not raised with emotional intelligence. A lot of us were actually raised to shove down and suppress and really put our emotions away, leave them at the door, come in, get into work, do what you need, or come in the classroom kind of thing. Which now we know is not just unhelpful, but at its worst, it's really damaging and toxic. And I guess the more in-depth kind of explanation of emotional intelligence is your ability to be aware of your emotions and those of other people's emotions, and to use that information to guide your actions, to adjust your behavior on the fly, to make good decisions, to be productive, to deepen relationships, a whole host of stuff. But really, it kind of stems from, do you know your emotions? Do you actually know what they are? Can you even accept and acknowledge that you have them? And then can you learn from them? Because they're actually really, really valuable. And like you just kind of mentioned, my career took a turn. It's taken off because in huge, like I think in a large part, because I'm so much more aware of and honoring my emotions. And that's taken me to so many different places. Whereas before I would have stayed as a speech pathologist, which is nothing wrong with that. But at my workplace, I never ever went for like the manager position. I never went to be a coordinator or anything like that, because I was limited with my emotions and my confidence. Now, like, holy moly, I don't even know myself now. It's just
Firstly, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of the woman you are becoming and how you have changed so much. Steph, this is for anyone listening, Steph and I have known each other for a very long time, and I'll never forget the time we're just quickly texting and you were like, I have an idea, I'm not ready. So I said, let's go for tacos. So we went for tacos.
Oh my God, I forgot that night.
Oh my God, it was so long ago. Here we are having the guacamole and the chips, and you're literally telling me about this topic that is so foreign to me. And I was like, yeah, go for it. And I remember you actually using examples of how you were so scared to tell people of the change that you're making, and because you're worried of what they would think. And I was like, no, Steph, you've got this. And just, it's such a beautiful transition that you have embarked, and I'm just so proud of you. I'm so proud of you.
I feel like you had more confidence in me than I did.
Well, yeah, and I did, because I just felt how much passion you had for it. And it's interesting, at the time, I didn't think there was a need for it in our community or with parenting, because I didn't realize the importance of tapping into your emotions. And even though you explained it, it is bloody hard work. Like, even for myself as a mum, as a wife, as a friend, there are many flaws when it particularly comes to me working on my emotions. And I can definitely say I'm a reactive person. And it's actually owning the moment to realize, oh gosh, maybe I shouldn't have said it that way. But so the personal story as well, I approached you with, when you started EQ, with, I'm having trouble with my daughters. What do I do? And it was such for me, learning off you, Steph, I feel I became a better mum, a better clinician because I didn't realize the power of supporting someone's emotional growth. So talk to me about why is emotional intelligence why emotional intelligence is important, not only for a parent, but why is it crucial for young children and raising children?
Oh, okay. Big, juicy question.
Give me a good dot point.
Yeah. First off, I want to say you mentioned something along the lines of it's really hard and like it takes effort. Oh my God. It is probably the most, the area or the skill set of, I see it as personal development that takes the most self-discipline that a lot of people are not prepared to do, and a lot of people don't want to do, because you have to reflect and look at your own behavior and how you're showing up, and how sometimes you don't do what you say you do, or you don't live your values, being respectful or letting people, listening and things like that. Like it's this concept of like cognitive dissonance. We want to be a certain way and then we're not, and we're like, damn it. Anyway, so I often say that emotional intelligence takes a lot of self-discipline, and it is not the easy way to, if we talk about it in the parenting context, it is not the easiest way to parent at all. It's probably the hardest way because it demands so much of us, and it's way easier to parent the old, traditional, to be honest, outdated, old school way of threats and bribes and punishment. Like that's a quick, easy way to get your kids to do what you want them to do. And to get them to, shove down their, let's call them inconvenient emotions, because they are. Like we have deadlines, we have to get in the car, we got to get them to school, we got to get to work, and so on. And the emotions and the big, like we know that kids are balls of emotion, right? Like they get in the way. So yeah. So and the other thing is, a lot of us were raised with that sort of approach to parenting, and emotions were not valued. They were seen as awkward, silly, childish, embarrassing, a sign of weakness. Like these are all, I talk a lot about the lessons that we have to unlearn, not just as parents, but just as people. And I'm getting to your question of why is it so important? Because bloody hell, look at the rates of anxiety, depression, self-harm, suicide. Like I don't think we're all okay. I know a lot of people say, oh yeah, I was smacked, or I was this and that. My parents, took things off me and I turned out fine. And I'm like, did you? I'm like, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it's apart from things like the strong correlations, like the evidence base behind when we increase or improve kids' emotional intelligence, they're more resilient, they're more self-aware, they have higher rates of confidence, they're better able to handle strong emotions, they do not turn to drugs or alcohol or substance abuse or anything as anywhere near as much as other people without these emotional intelligence skills do. There's correlations between living in or not living in, I should say, sort of public housing, not having a college degree. This is American literature. There's so much that they have now been able to directly link to increased rates of emotional intelligence. Like there's not a shred of evidence that says it's not worth working on your emotions.
It's funny, sorry to interrupt you there, Steph. It's funny how you spoke about all the benefits of having emotional intelligence, but then obviously my business is structured around connection creates communication, but one being connected to themselves, because they have that self-love. And when they have that self-love, they're not seeking that from everybody, because they know what emotions they have embodied within themselves, that they're not seeking that from anyone else, which will make them be more connected to themselves and connected to their, what's the key word? Emotions. Sorry, continue. I was like, I have to say this.
I love that so much. There is so much to be said for when we start to develop our own emotional intelligence. Actually, a big quote that came out of my book, which came out last year, was, in order to raise emotionally intelligent kids, we must first become emotionally intelligent parents. Which, like, God damn it, why can't we just teach our kids to do this stuff?
But it's so true, right? Like, and I go back to the way that we were raised. Like here I am, Middle Eastern culture, very disciplinarian, very expectations with your behavior. Like if you do this, I'll do this, like a consequence, right? And so the more I raise my children, I see my mum in myself. The more I talk to my children, I'm like, oh, here comes Kathy. Kathy's coming out now. But then I have to be aware of that to realize how was that little girl when Kathy would discipline her? How did she feel in that moment? And I want my children to feel vulnerable and communicate with me, whereas I wasn't as a young girl. Yeah. And I'm not, and just a quote for everybody, we are not dismissing how our parents raised us. That's all they knew best. Yeah. That's all they knew best because of the tools that they were taught at that time. But I feel like now our generation of parents have more tools and more data and more evidence-based practice to show the importance of what you do, Steph, and how we want to reduce the likelihood of suicide, likelihood of self-harm, and likelihood of lack of self-confidence, right? So as parents, we have so much power to create change. And it's so vital that we're aware of what you do or what you teach.
Can I add to that? Because that's a really good point, Rita. To add to that, a lot of parents, and, you know, this goes for therapists and educators, people who work with kids, like part of our job is, or a big part of our job is to guide and teach and coach kids and help them to learn how to be in this world, right? So the thing is, we want to move away from those, you know, if you don't do this, then you won't get that. Or if you do this, then I'll give you the carrots and the sticks idea. And with emotional intelligence and what you're talking about with connection, you mentioned connection a little bit before, earlier. People, I think we are now starting to, it's like, this is not new, it's not rocket science. It's actually going back to the roots of what it means to be with another person. Like I say, emotional intelligence is not just for you and your child or you and your colleagues. It's very big in teams and organizations. And like anyone in relationship with other people, you have to be able to understand your own emotions and how they are impacting you showing up, and also understand that the other person in the interaction or the relationship, their emotions are as true for them as yours are for you. So don't go fighting them, don't go dismissing them, don't go invalidating them. Like that's a surefire way to, let's say with your kids, get them to not cooperate with you and get them to feel angry and like you don't get it and you never listen and why are you being so mean and telling me to do all these things, or you didn't see that she started it. Like if we come back to the fact that yes, we want to gain our kids' cooperation so that we can impart our wisdom and these lessons, why you can't hit your brother or why you can't have 10 cookies or whatever it is. If we don't have a good bond or connection, like trust, love, respect, if we don't have a good connection with our kids, we are not going to be able to gain their cooperation and have that influence over them. Like when it matters, especially when it matters, not just about don't eat that one and, you know, you shouldn't lie, but like in the big things when our kids are, say, older and they are offered the drugs or the, you know, whatever those things are, you know, we still want our kids to be able to hear us and listen to our advice and things like that. We're not going to have that if we don't have a good connection and bond with them, which is what emotional intelligence gives us, because anyone, especially kids, but anyone wants to feel seen and heard and important and like they matter and like what they say and do is valued. So once we do that through their emotions, because emotions are such a big part of being a kid, then we're building that connection with them, which means, like, to be honest, I can ask my kids probably to go to the end of the world, or, you know, I can ask a lot of my kids. I don't manipulate it, but or abuse it, but I can ask them to do a lot. And most of the time they will cooperate and they agree because they know like that they have such a good deep connection with me because I've been building that. Like that comes before their grades. It comes before getting them to school on time, or like before the stain on the carpet. I'm like, I don't care as long as our relationship is intact, and that's number one. All the other stuff can come later.
Yeah, Steph, this is powerful stuff. And all I could think of is yes, yes, yes. And not only as a mum to connect to your kids, but even as a clinician connecting with my clients, that how can I encourage a child to change their communication or change their speech sound if they don't have trust within me and belief within themselves that they can do it? And this is why I really hate token reinforcements, because I feel I don't want a client to change the way they're talking because they're getting McDonald's after therapy, or to add a word in their sentence because they're going to get a sticker. Look, all of them are fun and cute in the beginning, but nothing creates change than building a child's intrinsic motivation, right? And so we need that base foundation so the child could respond well to treatment, but also as a parent, we need to build the child's intrinsic belief, is what you call it, and trust with the caregiver so they are not scared to come up to you if they've done something wrong. Or what frightens me, when they're 16 or 20 and they've done something wrong behind my back, I don't want them to feel shame or harm by not coming to talk to me. I want them to have an open, honest communication with me.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so I'm glad you said that. Something came to mind. Okay, actually 2 things. I've got a reel sitting in my drafts exactly on this topic that's about to go out because my son made accidentally a giant mess in the kitchen. But probably, I want to say like 6 months ago now, I posted a reel on my Instagram, and I can't remember where it's probably at. I think this is one of the ones that's maybe 3 or so million views. Like this one went viral. My son accidentally spilled, poor kid, he accidentally spilt red Fanta all over our couch. I actually happened to be sitting next to him, and I was like, oh, and it just slipped out of his fingers, right? I could have done it with a coffee, right? Oh my goodness, the amount of people who just jumped on, why is he even getting red Fanta? Why is he sitting on the couch? He shouldn't, like, haven't you told him not to sit at the table? I'm like, whoa, anyway, so the point is, like, he did not jump in fear. He did not like race off to his room. He wasn't afraid that I was going to tell him off and yell at him. I also didn't react like as in a knee-jerk reaction of, what are you doing? Get up. How could you? Go and tidy it. Go in your room. No more TV. Like, I didn't do that. Like, it's already done, the mess. And so I quickly said to him, like, I said, quick, go get the paper towel. Let me get this off. We could luckily unzip the couch cushion and clean it. And I taught him how to like take it off, how to spray it, how to put in the washing machine and fix his mistake, which is really what we want to teach kids in the long run. If you mess up, because you're going to mess up, this is how to fix it or to repair it or to make amends to that person. So why would I be yelling and screaming and shouting? Like, as you said, they're going to make mistakes now and continuing. Like, I'm in my 30s, I still stuff up. I do not want to embed this like reaction to him, or this belief, that, oh my God, I've just done this. Like, I do whatever I can to not let mum and dad find out, hide it and run away. You're like,
with the cushion over.
I was like, tell me, like, if you do something and you're like, Mum, everyone was doing it and I went along and we did it and we got in trouble. Like, I want him to be able to think, okay, I'm going to go straight to mum or dad and I'm going to tell them because they're going to help me. They're not going to judge me, shame me, yell, and, take my phone or whatever.
I have 2 questions based on that. So if my daughter did the Fanta situation, I think I represent probably about 80%, 70% of parents who would lose their mind because first, okay, can I give an example? We just moved into a new house and I was getting ready to go for dinner with my husband, and the painter left earlier that day in the new room that we built. My daughters were having an argument over tomato sauce. Yeah. And push come to shove, all I hear is this massive yell, red sauce all over the freshly painted white wall, all over this gorgeous, beautiful fabric new couch we bought. And in my mind, all I could think of was, I hope the paint is dried so we don't get red stains on the wall. So that's one part of my mind. The next part is, how am I going to get the stain out of this brand new quality couch? And then another part of my brain was like, how do I respond to this without causing trauma? And knee-jerk reaction, my husband, who is the calmest human under the planet, I have never heard him yell. Then I responded to that yell and went louder because it was just, my sensory system was so overregulated. So my question to you is this impact reversible?
Am I normal?
Our reaction to kids is like, I know they're young and so forth, but can we reverse it so they are less likely to have those difficulties as they get older?
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, absolutely. Like, there, we know about neuroplasticity. The brain is malleable. We can always shift and change our perceptions, our behavior, our thoughts, our language, everything like that. And I have seen families who have reconnected, and after many years, I have seen parents who have teenagers shift their ways of being and saying, you know what, honey, I am working on this. I do not want to yell. I'm doing this course, or I'm working with this person, and things like that. And most of the time, kids are very, I want to say, understanding and forgiving. And it's not that we are going to abuse that and manipulate it and say, well, at least I'm trying and you'll forgive me. But it's, we've got that, when we have that deep attachment with our kids, then, we've got to be flexible with each other, because we're not perfect. I am definitely not perfect. And I'm telling my kids, hey, you do not have to have it all together all the time. I don't, daddy doesn't. Like, hello, didn't you see yesterday at lunch when we were arguing, or whatever it was? So yes, pressure is off there.
I love how you said that, because it also teaches kids it's okay to be human. You're allowed to have these emotions. You're allowed to have these outbursts, because you are human. And by encouraging the range of emotions, allows them to be more in tune of what they're feeling, but also lets them identify at a much faster rate to then therefore know how to resolve the matter.
Yeah, 100%. I think if we are, we're probably setting our kids up to fail if we don't allow them to crumble and not to have it all together, and to get, to be perfect and happy all the time. Like, if we shut down arguments, if we shut down anger or tears or whatever it is, like that's unhelpful. That's damaging. That's toxic. We want our kids to know you don't have to be perfect. No one is. Like, if you try and attain that, then it's a misnomer. Like, that it's impossible. And if you try, you're just going to beat yourself up every time you fall short. And that's where things like perfectionism, which comes under the anxiety umbrella, OCD, like all of that, that's another part of my work. I do anxiety work for kids, but we do not want to like set them up with this bar that's like way high in the sky. I can't even reach that. Jeez.
No, it's so true. Now, given that example I gave you of the tomato sauce situation, if this is a reoccurring behavior in many families' lives, especially if they're raising a child with a disability, they're incredibly stressed already with all the needs that they need to attend to. I know this is such a broad question, but what tips could you give parents if they have no EQ or EI, is that what you call it? Emotional intelligence. What's the starting point for parents who are just lost in this whole world?
Yeah. And, well, that is so common, because as we kind of mentioned earlier, a lot of us were not raised with emotional intelligence or knowing emotional intelligence. And most of the time our parents were reactive and things like that. And they resorted to things that were quote unquote best practice, like timeout and spanking and smacking, all that stuff. So number one tip, be really, really gentle with yourself. Don't beat yourself up when you have those moments, because inevitably you will, where you react or you have that knee jerk, you erupt. Do not be harsh on yourself. You've got to give yourself enough self-compassion that will get you through those tough moments and start afresh the next day, because, we have years of being with our kids, and we do not want to set ourselves up for this impossible, okay, I'm not going to yell today, I'm going to be perfect, I'm going to be really calm and I'm going to get through the day. No, just get rid of that.
That's not unrealistic.
So that's number one.
That's not going to happen.
Number two would be, I honestly just go to, there is so much free content out there now around emotional intelligence. So start even just like, I've got a ton of free, you've got, content on it. I've got content on it. I've got a podcast, I've got a book, I've got like YouTube videos, I've got blogs. Like, there's so much. You could just type in where to start with emotional intelligence, or how do I, one thing I love is, how do I increase my emotional vocabulary? Maybe that's like number three. So lots of free content out there. And also, yes, number three, let's say, start increasing your emotional vocabulary, because there is a lot of research that supports that when you have a more nuanced or a more rich emotional vocabulary to describe how you're feeling, and then those around you, but focus on you first, you're actually going to be in a much better position to be able to know why you're feeling that way, to kind of connect the dots, what has happened, who said what, or, something's come across your desk, or your child has just done XYZ. And then you're in a better position to know how to respond and what you need in those moments. If it's taking something off your plate, if it's delegating, if it's going out, if it's dropping demands, if it's, leaning on people and accepting help, there's a lot of stuff out there, but we can't get to that space where we can support our own emotional regulation if we don't even know how we are feeling, right? We're not just feeling bad or pissed off. They're not even emotion words. And to be honest, even if we think, okay, well, I'm really angry, anger is very often a surface level emotion word. Underneath, there are more specific or more deep emotional vocabulary that can actually kind of pinpoint what specifically you're feeling. A lot of time people think they're angry. They might actually be hurt, or they might be disappointed. Like, we can't just go with these blanket, like, happy, sad, mad. It's just not enough. So there's 3 things. I don't want to overload people, but
I think even with me as a therapist, but also as a mum, understanding emotional vocabulary is just vital. And I always encourage parents, don't accept when your child says they've had a good day. I encourage them to be more specific with their day and give a reason as to why. So why are you feeling, what's a better word instead of good? Oh, I'm feeling excited. Okay, let's examine why. You're feeling excited because, and they can then attach the emotion word to the reason. And on the flip side, when you said, I'm mad, I'm angry, let's tap into that more. Oh, I'm actually disappointed. Why? Oh, I'm disappointed because I lost my school captain badge. Okay, so we've got the emotion to the reason, the cause and effect. And I feel when we allow our children to explore the range of emotions, it allows them to identify it and explain it at a much faster rate rather than internalizing it all the time.
Yes. Yeah. And actually, good point. What goes along with that is then, because we're teaching our kids about expressing their emotions and putting labels to them, like even within that, we're teaching our kids, or we're normalizing that we have emotions and we talk about emotions and we problem solve emotions. We're just making it normal. I often say to people, wouldn't it be amazing if we could look at our emotions or treat our emotions the same as, having an elbow or a nose or a brain or lungs? Like, having emotions is as much a part of being human, as much a normal part of being human as having a nose or a brain. I'm not embarrassed about my brain or my nose going, oh my God, please don't look at my nose. I can't believe I have one. And yet we do that with our emotions. We shove them down. We don't want to see people. We don't want to let people see us cry or be upset or anything less than okay because it's embarrassing or it means I'm weak. I'm like, no, can we please, like, what is the point of that? We're given emotions for a reason. And actually, if you learn how to almost like leverage them, it's a bloody superpower.
It's so important. And being a mum myself, Steph, I continually reflect on my childhood. Always. Like, I'm very grateful for the way I was raised, the love, the community. But I'm always like, how can I have the same with my children, but better? Make it better for them. And I really love how you said, let's make it normal. Let's talk, like, even when a child gets a knee graze, that's normal in every household. Let's make talking about emotions normal, because when you make it normal, it feels the right thing to do, and they're not having the burden associated to it. Yeah.
Can I add on to that?
Yeah, go.
I love that you said that. And can I add that if we're normalizing emotions, we're also helping to kind of teach our kids how to problem solve and move through them and process them. This emotional intelligence and what we're talking about here and this way of raising kids is not about sitting in your emotions all day and talking about them and having them like whoosh, wash over you, like, those moments when you just get nothing done, or you're totally unproductive, or you just vent and you just, what's that word when you're like an energy vampire?
I call it verbal diarrhea.
Yes. Like, that is okay. So that's not what we're talking about with emotional intelligence. We honor our feelings. We accept them and acknowledge them. We think, what's going on? Do I need to set a boundary? Do I need to have said no when I said yes? Do I need to speak up here? Do I need to give myself time to rest? Like, what do I need to do? Do it. There's a whole aspect of problem solving and emotional regulation. Once we can move through particularly those big emotions, then we get on with our day. Like, they're processed, they're done. We don't hold on to them. We don't hold that grudge. We don't get a chip on our shoulder. We don't become this bitter person, or, you know what I mean? Like, let go of that stress or the anger or the disappointment or whatever. Move on. Like, this is not about, oh my God, emotions take over my life. It's actually really, like I said, it's being smart with your emotions, and it makes you more productive. It makes you nicer to be around. People want you on their team, in your workplace, in their classroom. Like, this is just a much nicer way to be and live.
And I guess if we teach our kids now, imagine the more fruitful less manic adulthood they would have, and less overthinking everything with their relationships and their workplace and them as whatever role they want to fulfill. Imagine the beauty in that. And what you mentioned earlier, look at the rate of mental health difficulties now with adults. And I always think to myself, if that one particular person that caused harm for somebody, if their emotions were met, would that behavior have occurred? Would that incident would have occurred? It makes you really question what's going on in the world right now and how much of it is associated with lack of emotional intelligence, but also loneliness as well, Steph.
Yes. And my mind just went to I have a wait list for my anxiety clients, for my kids. The rates of anxiety we know are through the roof for lots of different reasons. But imagine if we taught kids from the get-go how to deal with their emotions, how to move through them, how to honor them and not let them wash over and take over. Would we have so many therapists who are just booked out trying to help kids how to deal, or adults, I should say? Would we have that many adults in therapy? I'm not saying I love, there is such a place for therapy and medication and things like that. But I'm like, I wonder how differently our world would look if we were all a little bit more emotionally intelligent. And this was in schools and this was in workplaces and it was just how we were.
Yeah, so true, Steph. And I guess this is where it comes back down to caregivers and parents working on yourself to set the foundation. Like with communication development, it all comes back down to parents and the way that they model communication. But how about now we model emotional intelligence? And I guess this is why I feel this role was perfect for you, Steph, because you've got the communication aspect from your speech pathology degree, which was your foundation. And then you've got your own personal story of your own difficulties, your own anxiety, your own avoidance, and how you conquered that. And you had your evidence from uni and you flourished into the beautiful program that you've created, which is emotional intelligence for kids, which is, I can talk about this all day and every day because it's such an important field. And I see your book at the back, Chaos to Connection. Yep. Love that book. Tell us about that book. Yay.
Okay. So this is it's called From Chaos to Connection, and it's how parenting with emotional intelligence raises kind, confident, resilient kids. And it's not a chunky read. You can see, I don't think there's any point in over explaining things when you can just make it really simple for people. And so that, came out last year. It's a few people have messaged me over the last 12 months saying it's on the bestseller list again. On Amazon. So it goes in different categories of emotions and science and parenting and homeschooling. So it's a really great introduction. It's got some great ideas and tips and scripts and strategies and a lot of my own personal stories. And people say, it's true. I write how I speak. So it's very easy to read. It's quick. It's not like you must ensure. I'm like, guys, just let your kids have their emotions. So it's good.
You've made it more real. Real
and relatable.
Did I see you're writing another book, or you've written another? It was yellow.
Nope.
I thought you had 2 books.
Nope.
No, I saw a yellow book that you shared. It was what you shared on your story, and I thought that was your other book. You did it this week, I think. Yes.
Did you say sleep?
No, you did it this week. You posted
this week.
Yeah,
I probably do. I love sharing. I love sharing other people's work and services and support and products and stuff. So here and there, if you do follow me on Instagram, I will probably here and there be posting stuff that I know is aligned to emotional intelligence, but also communication and speech and language, because it just, like you said, it fits so well. So
yeah. What's your Instagram handle? I'm going to tag it in the post, but just for anyone listening, it's emotional intelligence.
It's emotionally.intelligent.parenting. Parent.
Yeah.
I don't even know my handle.
I'll post it up there. Well, Steph, thank you for coming and having a wine with Weeda. I feel we have definitely discussed, firstly, the importance of emotional intelligence for children, the implications of not having sufficient or even strong emotional intelligence as children and as adults, but also strategies on how to support parents, because it's such a complex role. And it's such a complex way to change yourself, and it's a journey, because I'm definitely on that journey. I'm not 100%, but I'm getting there. But we also discussed the relevance of emotional vocabulary and not only accepting the basis words of good and bad and angry, and really tapping into those specific terms that are so important for a child to understand how they're feeling.
You know what? Can I just quickly add, because you mentioned the emotional vocabulary and it popped in my mind, on my website, which is stephaniepinto.com, you can go to the resources section, and there's 2 emotion wheels there, a kid's one and an adult's one, that has, it's beautifully colored, and it's got lots more in-depth and specific emotion words. So you can get a wheel on my website if you want.
And if parents want to work closely with you to support their parenting or to help their child with anxiety that you said, they can just contact you via website?
Probably the best way at the moment is going through the website. My team gets the inquiries, and then based on my capacity, whether or not, then we can look at doing some work together.
And are you NDIS registered or see NDIS clients?
I sometimes see NDIS clients, if they're self-managed or plan managed, but not NDIS. So managed.
Like the majority. No, that's good to know, especially for parents that want to access services. Thank you, Steph, for joining me. However, at the end of every chat, I like to ask my guests a secret question. And the question is, if you were to change yourself to be a better version of yourself tomorrow, Steph, what word would you tell yourself? So my word, and I've had this word for the last few days, my word's been hydrate. Because I feel this cold weather is just making my body so dry. So if I don't tell myself hydrate, or don't make the word of the day hydrate, I'm not accountable for what I need done.
That's good. Okay, well, I was when you said that, I'm gonna go with what dropped into my mind, and then I'll explain it. Patience, because I have a mind that goes super fast, and I want to do all the things, and I get a lot of stuff coming across my desk, and I would like to say yes to everything, and then I feel like, oh my God, I'm going to burn out. So patience, like this, I'm doing this for the long end game, and I'm going to be here in another 10, 20 years, so I can slow down.
Love it. Love it. I think every parent needs to know, or make that word of their day, patience in their work, in their relationships, and to themselves. Be patient with yourself.
Maybe just chill. Chill.
Chill out. Well,
thank you, Rita.
Again. I adore talking to you, and keep shining and sprinkling your magic, because you are helping so many people and children, and you should win a Nobel Award. That's how great you are.
Well, back at you. Thank you, Rita.
Well, you have a gorgeous day. Take care, everybody, and I'll see you next week.